Yo, what it do? It's your boy No Name. Let's get right into it. We gotta talk about these Atlas Trees, y'all, because they are such a W, and it's honestly kind of criminal that I hadn't talked about it sooner. Real talk. I should have said something about how good these trees are already, but I just needed more time, man. I just needed to experience more things with it and how incredible it feels. And here we are. It just feels incredible. It's been about 3 weeks. Time for me to finally talk about how good it is and how it's really impacted my gameplay overall from start to finish. Things that I'm still looking into, things that I'm still slightly concerned about. Just gonna talk about all of it in here, just condense these thoughts finally. Not have had enough time to get enough thoughts to put all together. Now, if this video intrigues you, inspired you, learned something, whatever it may be, please drop a like. It really helps me out a lot as I try to push this wheel. And if you really want to help push this wheel, or more importantly, you just want to see what's going on the channel as I keep uploading videos, feel free to subscribe so you can see the vibes, you can see the videos that we post, all that good stuff. Now, the big changes are the following things. There's Atlas Trees now. Those who are new to this league, I know we haven't forgotten this. I'm just reiterating it, right? 50 completion and 100 completion to get your second and third Atlas Trees. Delicious. We love that. We also have mechanics that now have 100% spawn chance on the tree. Like, we have more of them. Almost everything has plus 100% on the tree. Fantastic. Fantastic. Your Scarab drop investment is everywhere now in place of map dupe nodes. Necropolis is on the tree now. Modifier effect scaling has gone up. And one more massive change that we're going to use to lead into our topic of progression. Wandering Path. Smoking that Wandering Path pack. No, okay. I didn't hate Wandering Path, but I do think it was bad design. This is one of those moments where my brains conflict because I like to look at things through the brain of a designer and the brains of a player. And as a player, Wandering Path, ooh, did it feel good for streamlining early progression. At least on good builds. But on bad builds, it felt hellish and it felt punishing. And removing Wandering Path solved a lot of those problems when I think about the need for gear and everything. And I think this is better design overall to have people actually interact with the game's depth at an early level. Path of Exile is a game about depth, right? We constantly parade around how deep and intricate our game is. We being the players of the game, right? Like, we're just saying, like, oh man, our favorite game is so complex. And yet, for years, the optimal way to progress in the game was to not interact with that depth at all, because it didn't affect your ability to get to your first 2 watchstones. And that was just lame. I'm gonna just keep it a buck. That was lame. And it really squeezed out build viability. Like, it really squeezed towards the top because you were just progressing so much faster than you were gearing. And now that we're putting monsters on our maps, you gear so much better. Plus, Keurig nodes still retained their relative same value as before. Plus, you get the notable now, right? You get more currency and gear because we're actually doing mechanics. Like me personally, I did Harvey shrines and boxes as my early progression alongside the Keurig nuts, and it felt incredible. I had currency for days because, Harvey's drop horizons, bindings, alks, and chaos, all of which are very important in early progression, especially binding shards, you guys. Whether it be getting yourself a 4-link or using them as replacement alks because you need the actual alks themselves for bench crafts or buying from Keurig, bindings should not be slept on in progression. Then, in addition to all this stuff and using these mechanics to, boost character power, run through maps faster, actually drop more maps, etc., you also get to put in scarabs now because scarabs drop more frequently, as we talked about in our last video. This is the type of stuff that feels incredible. Just overall made the prog experience feel better. And that's a good thing. Plus, now progression. So progression for me, and this is a line that you'll have to set for yourself, but for me, progression refers to all the way up until the first 4 watchstones are done. Feel like at that point in time where you're still like getting yourself set up, and you could even extend this all the way to having invitations and favorite slots done. I don't go that far because I think the invitations and like having feared and like serious included in there is a bit of a reach. But the idea of being able to get to my 4 stones deterministically now is incredible, and having that second tree to immediately spec into destructive play when it's time to do so was so fucking good. Having my base tree as my Keurig and map sustain and like Jun and harvest tree for character gearing purposes, and then I had my tree for yo, get me my Conqueror maps and my Guardians. I'm trying to go see Uber Elder and Maven. Like that was incredible. That was what we needed. We needed the ability to swap between strategies with no cost. And it showed itself even in that progression sense, but it gets even more highlighted when we transition into endgame. Right? Endgame, how many times have you wanted to change mapping strategies, try out new things that you saw your favorite content creator, especially like right now, if you've been keeping track of like what MP has been posting, he's been posting a strategy a day almost, basically, right? You're going to see him go through tons of strategies, and maybe you want to try these things out. But you didn't have trees before, so if you wanted to go back to your old strategy, you had to respect twice. Now, at least you can keep a tree on your old strategy. Or, you know, if you're like me in a private league or you're playing an SSF, you get to spec between all of the various things that you actually need to farm, right? I needed to self-farm my own cluster, so I had a tree that was just dedicated to Delhi. Then I had my tree that is for farming corpses and influence stuff. Then I have my tree that is, oh, I need to do some Jun and some harvest really, really badly, right? Like I have my dedicated trees for the things that I do, and that feels fantastic. Plus, you know what makes what's even better than just being able to switch between mechanics like that? Having it be so that when you're on the tree, you get to see the mechanic, right? 100% spawn chance, you guys. Like that feels incredible. It's so nice seeing the words area contains the sacred grove on the sidebar, or area contains Jun on the sidebar when you're looking, as opposed to plus chance to see things. Being able to go just guaranteed really makes Out and Go feel like Out and Go again, because something that I didn't like Out and Go strategies in the past year or two, maybe even 3 actually, is that Out and Go was not really Out and Go. And technically speaking, you can still use scarabs in the current iteration of Out and Go. But Out and Go kind of needed you to work from having scarabs or sextants if you were actually to do the thing that you were out and going, unless your out and go is exclusively just altar farming, right? Like this feels way better. Now, one of the big in-game impacts that I felt has been some Atlas point pressure, which this is like a good and bad feeling. It's just something worth noting because there's so many things worth taking on the tree right now, I feel like. And it's going to just require me to do some more thinking. We'll talk a little bit about that later, and then maybe I'll retouch on it, maybe like at a different time after I've done more thinking on it. But it's just something that like, I know I've been feeling it. I know people around me have been feeling it. I know that like it's a common sentiment on various forums and platforms. So it's just something like I should reflect here as like a thought as it pertains to endgame effect of the Atlas Master Tree. Like 132 points does not necessarily feel like enough anymore. Now, that said, I haven't actually gotten to test some things that might alleviate this problem. That's actually the things that I'm mostly concerned about testing at this point. Because I know what most of the notables and keystones already do and their impacts and all that stuff. But there's 2 major things that I have not tested in terms of investment strategies that I feel like might change my understanding of the Atlas Passive Trade. One of these 2 things is Wandering Vision, like most directly a solution to the Atlas point pressure problem that I'm having, but I'm not sure that I'm willing to take the dopamine loss from no longer dropping scarabs. Like be real with me for a second. Does that even almost sound appealing to you? Like 20 points, it does sound really good, right? But now you can't juice your maps, which I can live with that. I've run quite a lot of maps this league, just alking and going for like getting into harvest and whatnot without, because I don't have the harvest scarabs to really juice it or something, right? Like I can live with that. But not dropping scarabs in the league where scarabs feel so OP is like, I don't know. Like, am I really going to get that value? And I've done some math about it, and I do think the 20 points actually might be stronger than not seeing scarabs. It's just, man, I don't want to not see scarabs. You know what I mean? Like, I like scarabs. And so that's kind of been my conflict with Wandering Vision, if you will. And I think that there's also room to consider using scarabs in place of those passive point wheels for seeing a mechanic. Here's a really good example of this. If you're running a mechanic like Expedition, you have this really big wheel that you have to invest in at the bottom that's kind of out of the way of a lot of other points that you might have actually been interested in investing in. And it takes about 7 points to get all that. Plus, then you still have to spec into the longer side of the node in the middle and other places to get your chance. And so it could cost you up to 10 points just to get the 100% chance. And I wonder if at that point the scarab is worth it. It's just another thing to think about. And I've seen it with a couple mechanics. It makes me think it might be worth it, but I have to, try it at some point. I have to do some testing. It's just things to think about. Maybe this is more valuable in a league where the base value of the scarabs themselves are a little bit stronger, because I do think the spawn mechanic scarabs for mechanics that only have one-offs are kind of weak, but other thoughts, right? Now, things that I'm currently concerned about before I wrap this down, just some things that, like, I should get these out into the air, because it isn't all positive, right? Number one, I don't think I like having Necropolis on the tree. And I'll talk more about this from like the mechanic itself perspective in a different video maybe. But as it pertains to the tree itself, it just feels weird to have to spend points to make the current league mechanic better. Like, the current league mechanic is already omnipresent in content, so it should just be baseline better, Like, if I'm feeling like I need these nodes for it to feel worth it for a mechanic I like, and it's the new one, it probably should just be baseline buffed. Or there should be a different way that we get this without it, trading against what I consider to be the base game. The only exception to this thought, though, is that those, like, the corpse craft drop waiting ones, I think those nodes are fine, because they're just refining what you see as a result of doing the mechanic, as opposed to, like, massively buffing the mechanic, quite frankly. Like, chance for unresolved anguish monsters to drop an additional corpse, that's just a buff. Oh, pass this for increased drop rates of all embers of the all flame, that's just a buff. Devoted modifier effect, that's just a buff. Haunted modifiers fall 1 tier higher, that's just a buff, right? Like, we didn't need that to be the case. So, a little concerned there. But I'm sure this will fix itself out. It's a new iteration of the way that the tree works, right? And I mentioned it earlier, but I gotta highlight it again since we're talking about concerns. It's just point pressure. But I do think that a part of this has to do with the league mechanic nodes being put there, like the newest league mechanic. And so maybe like it's 1A, 1B of the same problem, but they are two technically distinct problems. And 3, back to Wandering Vision again, because I do need to research it more, and it's why I have it in my research list. But do know I have a very core concern about it, and I think the best way to phrase it is that it doesn't look appealing. Again, not even concerned about the actual efficacy of the node. I think the node actually might be really good. Psychologically, not dropping the new cool thing feels like shit. Wandering Vision feels like it should have come out like 2 leagues from now, after the scarab drop changes are no longer fresh and exciting, and they've tuned the nodes and drop rates or whatever the way that they're going to balance out the ridiculous scarab farming economy that's going on, right? Like, after they've done all of the changes, then it's like, all right, now we can add in Wandering Vision and you actually get data on it. Because I have to say this, no one's going to really use this fucking node. Not outside of like really early progression. Anyways, though, that's not all of my thoughts, but a lot of them, right? But all in all, this change is a heater, y'all. Like, I love what they've done with the Atlas Facet Tree overall. Again, a couple small complaints, but like I said, drops in the bucket. And this is a pretty big fucking bucket, if you know what I mean. It's felt incredible. It's got a lot of things for me really excited in terms of just playing in the end game and thinking about how to do progression. Practice runs and whatnot are going to be so much fun, like thinking about how to optimize different aspects of the multiple trees and whatnot. Which, speaking of multiple trees and everything, I am going to drop the links for the various passive trees that I've used just in the description down below, so you can use them for inspiration or you can steal them. A couple of them are my trees from when I was in trade. A couple of them are my private league trees. It'll be for you to decide which like apply better to what you do, all that good stuff. Just again, reminder, if you like the video, like it, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of what we're doing here. If you want to see me live when I am live, it's not a super consistent thing, especially recently. I've actually been really, really busy between a lot of different things. But when I am live, I'm over on Twitch. That'll be in the description. If you actually want to reach me, my Discord is a place that I am heavily active in. That is also going to be in the description, just trying to accumulate a community of players who are interested and passionate in the game. And so, if you want to be a part of that, the description is for that. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I've got to get out of here because there's a lot more blasting to be done. I still need to get these damn Uber bosses. And I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you guys for watching and take care, y'all. Peace.